Christy is here, and Tom is here, and Winburst is here, and NF Thinker is here. Oop, NF Thinker is here, and Phil is here. Awesome. All right, welcome to our all-team tactical meeting. We're going to use this time to sync up on all the work that we're doing around the B Foundation, eliminate blockers, and prioritize our work. The call is recorded and we shared on social media. So if you don't like that, don't talk, I guess. What we do, we help purpose-driven communities use Web3 tooling to generate revenue and engagement. I updated our Discord to include that phrasing as well. Because we had one of the in real life hosts actually join our in real life event host channel. So I figured we may as well make this place a little bit more black flaggy and not just BCardy, because there's like some cognitive dissonance there when you join and you're just like, oh, is this the right place? But anyways, so that's where we're at. On the lag metric side, this is what we're trying to achieve, but we don't change on a week-to-week basis necessarily. Well, on the transaction volume, we have 1,017. That's down 1,100 from the previous week. 52,020 in the vault. This is pretty steady from the last week. And $0 dispersed to communities because we only do that once a month. And so that's where we're at on our lag metrics. On the lead metric side, and these I think will change after the retrospective. So next week is a retrospective. I've already created the notes for that. So if you have some pluses and deltas, pluses things that we did well, deltas are things that we could improve. Feel free to write them ahead of time in the notes. I like to just write mine down in my own little side notes and then share them when we get to the meeting so we can kind of discuss it. But feel free to just go ahead and use those notes and put them in as you like. I haven't filled in the whole like the previous sections to it, which are like the alignment section. But other than that, feel free to put in your pluses and deltas. And so we will change the lead metrics, I think, after that. And hopefully as well, we will have the new Black Flag website up to give us those lead/lag metrics, or at least the majority of them. Oop, discard. All right, so that's it for our metrics. On the team-wide announcement, as I said, it's a retrospective next week. And then the following 2 weeks, we will have no meetings. So I'm not going to be available to have any meetings in the next 2 weeks. You may see me pop around the Discord and that kind of thing, but I won't really be actively working in the following weeks after next week. So yeah, hopefully you have some friends and family to enjoy your time with, because that's what I'll be doing. And so I hope the same for you. Don't forget to use the What Did You Ship channel when you ship something for B Foundation. I noticed a lot of people using it. We had a lot of different shippers this week, so that's great. Love to see it. And yeah, we can get into our product perspective on accountability and direction. So on the B Pages side, we're aiming to get to first launch. Oh, and sorry, just to say it again, since this is the second week with our slightly new template. Project perspective, it's meant to just allow us to kind of like slide in any project that we're working on. So we have 3 projects, I would say, on the go right now. We have B Pages, and we're aiming to get it to first launch. We have the BCard app, and we're really just in maintenance mode on this for now, as we are trying to work further up the funnel, and hopefully we will be able to unlock the real abilities of the BCard app in the future. And then finally, B Foundation. What we really want to do is establish a case study and presence. And so that's kind of where we're at with these 3 projects right now. So our first, and if we have other projects, like for instance, if you're working on a project and you just want a group to be accountable, feel free to bring it up, and we can have a little section for your project here on the list as well, and we can have a little accountability on a weekly basis. So yeah, feel free. It doesn't have to be BCard related. Can just be anything that you're working on. All right, B Pages getting to first launch. On the deposit widget side, the buttons are good enough for now. At first, I thought I wanted them to like all kind of have the same style and the same kind of root code. But then I realized that was against the direction that Tom and I first discussed, which is to make each widget kind of like usable on its own, completely on its own. And so I would instead work on making them stylable so that you can kind of change the look and feel of those buttons to match your own website. And so they're good enough for now. And I won't be using that button widget. In fact, I'll probably pull that button widget out of the login flow. But other than that, I think we're good enough on the deposit side. I haven't had a chance to fix the deposit errors yet, but Tom did give me some good directions on what to do with the reverts, and the majority of errors I'm getting are contract reverts. So I think that I just need to take a couple hours and fix those reverts. I should be able to do that, hopefully, knock on wood, in the next week, and release it before the end of the year. That is my hope. Before we go, that is my, let's just say, that is my goal. We'll see how I'll get there. But yeah, anything else on B pages? Nope. Okay. BCard app maintenance mode on the snapshot bug. Phil is now unblocked because you have everything you need for the test snapshot. And we should probably document this somewhere. I will probably just put it under Notion somewhere. Actually, I should probably put it in the code base in a README or something like that. But yeah, anything else to report on the snapshot bug, Phil?
No, almost done. I'm in kind of a merge hell. I tried to push the PR this morning, but I'm did a rebase when I should have merged, I think, and I'm in a little broken Git status. So I'll fix that after the meeting and push the PR over so you guys can pull it and look at it.
Sounds great. We'll put in a PR and then Tom links can review. Awesome. And now that we know that you're a real person, I think that we can actually give you access to the staging branch as well. Does that make sense to you, Tom?
Yep, for sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we try to give out access slowly, as people kind of like stick around and show that they're actually real people and are actually value aligned. So yeah, I'll get you on that staging branch. Actually, I should write that down. Yep.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, no rush.
Yeah.
I find the PR process works well too. I mean, but yeah, it's certainly more conducive if I can have access to the staging on the other side.
Yeah, so we still do PRs.
Yeah.
We have the staging, so it's kind of like on staging when you push. Oh yeah, the tough part actually is with the staging is that I don't want to pay more for Vercel. Darn it. Okay, maybe that doesn't make sense, but the intent is that it's kind of like it just like pushes the code up so it can be reviewed from a user perspective very easily. But it's no problem. I reviewed your stuff by just pulling your branch, by pulling your repo and just running it locally, so I can do the same thing. All right. And on the update to backend and admin dashboard, how's this going, Tom?
Oh yeah, well there was a bunch of updates over the weekend to a pretty nasty Next/React bug that security bulletin went out for. So I spent some time doing some updates there, just the minor ones, nothing major. Along with those updates, there's a little bit of maybe we were affected on our transaction servers, so some cleanup work was needed there. Everything seems to be okay at this time, so we're monitoring for any further things, and probably there's some secret rotation that has to happen for maintenance purposes, but overall I'm not super worried right now.
Yeah, and as well, I think that like the numbers that you're showing on the admin production dashboard they seem relatively accurate now.
Yep, yeah, they should be up to date. I haven't vetted the rejected transaction count verified number, but everything else I think should be pretty close.
Okay.
So it's now using live database access rather than pinging the API server directly. It's just like phoning to the database and getting the update or the information from there direct. So
nice. I think that makes sense. So Richard, I did check when you showed this, Tom, and it looks like it was pretty accurate to me. There were like some small differences, but I think that that's just chalked up to like the old, like the SQL query I have might be slightly different than your SQL query. So I can just take a peek and see, because it takes into account a lot of those different transcard statuses and stuff. So I could have just missed a status or here because like I definitely was not taking into account rejected transactions. And so there are some small differences there that I can just verify. But Richard, this also means that you can kind of verify using that spreadsheet output that we talked about last week, if you get a chance.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
On the figures on the admin dashboard for the
Yes.
The user stats.
Yes, exactly so. Cool. All right. And the bug fixes from you is kind of what I was talking about, these like React bugs. Yeah, there was a nasty React bug, which was I forget what they called, React to something.
React to shell, I think.
Yeah, React to shell,
Ouch.
which is really actually very bad. It's like I couldn't believe how bad it was. And we weren't
It
even
was
using server components, were we? And we still got
no.
affected.
Well, we were a little bit in the on the transaction servers. So that's principally, I think, where we got targeted. I think it was the particular infection that affected us was ironically a crypto miner.
Mm.
So I think that it detected our use of the Web3.js package or something like that as being sort of like, amenable environment to do crypto-y stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for doing those updates. Takes a load off my mind especially since I kind of like was slow to react on it. I saw that there was like a React bug and I didn't get a chance to look into it. So I appreciate you doing those updates. Thanks, Tom.
I didn't want to be honest with you, but I was looking into the admin panel updates on Friday and just poking around the server. It became pretty obvious that it was running sluggishly. I thought at first it was just a memory issue. Like, we've been tracking sort of like we're pretty tight on memory. And so I was like, man, is something already like a memory leak in the new code that I pushed out or whatever that's causing a problem or whatever? And I noticed our CPU pegged. And so I was like, wait, that's not correct. So found some obviously issues.
Yeah. It's yeah. It's I guess it's also lucky that you're doing those updates at that time, Ken. And also that we had recently looked at the performance of the TX server. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the bad part about Next and React being like so used by all of the industry is that it's also like kind of ripe for bad actors to kind of look into it and exploit it.
Yeah, I was shocked at how broad this particular I guess patch was. It affected quite a few number of versions from like older ones to even the newest deployments. So it wasn't just a single release that you usually see. It was pretty something deep that they found compromised.
Yeah. Well, at least they found it. All right. And so on the B Foundation Black Flag Collective, I did update the tally form and ping the event hosts. So I updated the tally form address and the on the Discord. So if you want that, that's kind of the canonical. But if you take a look at it now, it kind of looks a little bit more like the website. And you also have like a little connect wallet button here, but it doesn't work for Farcaster. So just like, oh, this is great, connect wallet. I can be sure I'm getting the right ETH address, but no, some people need to just it's for people who are just using Farcaster as a wallet. They still need like a clear text ENS field or no ENS field. So yeah, other than that, it is updated and the reason I updated it was because we kind of have updated our eligibility as well. We really just want people to post pictures on Farcaster and to fill in this form, whereas previously we were kind of asking people to put Black Flag in their promo, which I do think would be useful as kind of like a meme proliferation, but it wasn't really working to get us event hosts. So now we actually have like a bit more engagement from our event hosts, which is kind of nice. So yeah. And I'm aiming to get the vote up this week as well. So I did have a bunch of people who pushed in. Let's see how many event hosts. So I had 5 submissions already from people who kind of put stuff in, although some were in December. Oh, submitted that. No, one was in December, but the others were in November. So that's kind of nice as well. So we have at least 4 submissions for our next vote, and at least 1 for the one after. Actually, I have 2 events that I'm running in Toronto, so that's at least 3 that we'll have for December. So that's great. We got some good event host engagement, which is always nice to see. And then working on our own community. How's this going, Christy?
Oh, sorry. So the blog post and stuff, I have not made much progress on that.
Okay. And in terms of community metrics, I don't think we got a chance to talk about this recently, but I do think that it will become especially important after the retrospective and when we're updating this, because ideally we would have all of these community metrics either here or somewhere else, like on this site that we can easily kind of get. Yeah. So, anyways, we'll get there. All right. Let's go down into our task perspective. I think it's mainly the stuff that we've already spoken about. Community pages, milestone 1. Still working on that deposit widget, as I kind of already said. Admin dashboard refactor. How's this going, Tom? I mean, you kind of said already, but is any next steps on this or?
Yeah, the admin dashboard is doing some better lifting in terms of production data pull downs and analysis, which is hopefully the first steps towards getting all the fancy new features that we want to have enabled on there enabled. And at the same time, reducing the load off of our transaction servers directly. So it allows them to just do their job of watching for transactions and feeding out transactions to the app.
All right. What am I? So like, yeah, the transaction server and the API server. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Step towards. Is the admin dashboard on the same um, place as our API server?
It is not. No, the admin server is lives alongside the app app server in Vercel. A different.
Oh, okay.
It's another Vercel project. So.
Okay. I see. Cool. All right. Any next steps on this?
What was I thinking was the next thing? There was some discussion we had about modifying that recent transaction list to be a bit more useful. So maybe like a pull down the next few or add some filters in. That's probably the where I was looking at for modifications on that piece there. And then we get the back end work on automating the crons. I think that's the next job that's coming up. But
nice. Okay. And speaking of automation, automating the monthly emails. This is that. So yeah.
Yeah. So the idea is I'll be building out on the transaction server sort of the monthly statement. Well, I mean, hooks are already there, but I guess sort of exposing it to the admin server and then letting the admin server sort of be sort of a controller as well for it in terms of monitoring that and keeping track of what we're sending out to users.
All right. Sounds good. All right, and the inactivity fee feature, I guess this is kind of very related to the automations that you're going to be working on the admin server. So I'm assuming there's no new work on this.
Yeah, it's we're going to hook into that as well in terms of that automation and those inactivity fee checks are on the list.
All right, I will move Sprinkles' task a little bit down, and 2025 taxes. Any updates on this, Arkisti?
Well, so I was checking that I can pull extracts and stuff like that. So I guess it's getting kicked off and ready to start pulling stuff together.
Nice. All right. What did we ship last week? My favorite part of the meeting. Actually, honestly, the discussion is becoming my favorite part of the meeting. Feels like we've had some interesting chats. But what did we ship last week? Oh, 1 second. Sorry, I had a sneeze coming on. All right. Our Christie entered contributor awards for week 49 into splits for review and distribution. That's 15 minutes, so that's 250 BCard. And Winverse taped and shared this week's All Hands. That's 2K BCard. I prepped and held this week's All Hands. That's 2K BCard. I refactored the buttons and adjusted the colors. That's 2K BCard. I sent out contributor awards and made a video on how to do them. That's 500 BCard. I shared All Hands on social. That's 250 BCard. Tom updated the repos for the transaction servers, admin server, and app servers to mitigate the next vulnerabilities. That's 2K BCard. Tom cleaned and mitigated the transaction servers against the crypto miner hack. That's 4K BCard. And Tom planned all the secret rotations. That's 2K BCard. I made a new in real life event form and poked events hosts. That's 250 BCard, 750 BCard rather. Arcusy was at the Ops Weekly call. That's 500 BCard. He checked access to the admin dashboard and tested running extracts. That's 250 BCard. And I held the Ops Weekly and the Product Weekly. That's 1K BCard. And then Tom updated the BCard admin UI to complete the weekly analysis, data requirements, and use the live DB lookup on prod per cell. That's 2K BCard. All right. Anything else that we did that's on the list? All right. Let's get into the discussion. I think Christy, you brought this up. Did you want to give a little background on this discussion?
Well, I guess the background is, so I didn't even, I just saw a couple people post like, like, wow, Farcaster and stuff. And because I haven't been spending that much time on any social stuff or social apps lately. But then I did see the what people were talking about, and then there's been quite a bit of discussion since then. And I guess the gist of it was that Dan Romero kind of announced that they were. Well, I don't really know how to interpret the original post that everything's referring to, but it was like they were sort of like they were giving up on the social and focusing on the wallet was the gist of it that I got.
Yeah, I think like, the demise of social has been greatly overstated in some ways, but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, and then well, like there's I got kind of caught in the rabbit hole even this morning, like looking at some of the stuff that you had posted and whatever, and I started thinking about a lot of things and stuff that I wasn't even aware of. Like I had no idea that like Zapper was using like Farcaster for the Farcaster client for their social, and there's a bunch of other things as well. And then also well, then the I guess like because Base or the Coinbase thing, Base started out as primarily a wallet. I mean, it seemed like they were pushing to social, and it looks like a lot of other things have been doing that. Whereas Farcaster started as social, and now they're a wallet. So yeah. I don't know, like if there's some kind of convergence happening, or if it's just sort of like shots in the dark kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, none of those products have product market fit, right? So it's everyone's searching for that. because right now I would say the state of the industry is that everyone is competing, and this is the same state of the industry that it was a year ago and the year before that. Everyone is competing for the same 20,000 users. There are like roughly 20,000 users who are just like making all the trades, who are buying all the NFTs, who are, like it's more than that, but that's like, the I would say like those are the 20,000 users who are doing like 80% of the volume on the crypto market in general, especially like when it's a bear market. Like there's just not as many people around. And so every product, there's not a lot of people, and there's tons of money flowing into the crypto space especially from like kind of traditional investors and stuff right now. And so everyone's competing for these users, and so everyone is kind of like looking at how to get these users. And the things that have worked, the things that have created energy and excitement, have really been when there's an opportunity to make money, right? For these users, for these specific users, these 20,000 users, and so when you think about base as a wallet versus base moving towards social, well, if you look at like what drove a lot of the frenzy for NFTs, for meme coins, for altcoins, those kinds of things, it was social, right? Like it was crypto Twitter. You needed like just because you release an NFT doesn't mean anyone is going to buy it or use it. What made them buy it or use it was the fact that there was some narrative going on crypto Twitter at the time. And it's the same for meme coins, right? Like you can't just make a meme coin that people buy. It has to be based upon some sort of attention, some sort of meme. And those are happening on crypto Twitter, but crypto Twitter doesn't really allow you to easily integrate, whereas Farcaster does. Allow you, it's a programmable social network, right? And so I think the reason for that convergence that you're seeing is because for those 20,000 users that everyone's chasing, that like they see some value in those in getting those users, they really are in that convergence of wallets and and social. Does that make sense? So like that's kind of the background of this discussion, if that makes any kind of sense at all.
Yeah, and I guess so one thing that I'm kind of realizing that is that like maybe I'm not one of those 20,000 users that they're targeting.
Yeah, I'm not either.
And that there's probably like millions of other people that are kind of in the same situation. So
Yep, and that is the reason for a lot of the negative sentiment you see on Farcaster is
right.
because specifically for Farcaster, it became a place, especially like a year or two ago, where people could escape from crypto Twitter, from those 20,000 users who were kind of like sucking up all the air. And it was just like price narratives and stuff, essentially. Farcaster became a place where people who were interested in crypto for reasons other than price action could go and discuss things related to crypto. Honestly, it's one of the reasons I really appreciated Bankless DAO as well, is because yes, there were lots of DeFi maxis in Bankless DAO, but Bankless DAO itself was a place where you could discuss other applications of crypto, other applications of blockchain outside of that kind of like really PvP price narrative kind of stories that were going on crypto Twitter. And so the reason why there's lots of pushback is because those are the people who kind of like were part of Farcaster, who kind of created that early culture and network, and they feel like they're being discarded in a way for this other group of people who they wanted to escape from in some ways.
I guess at the same time though, like I probably don't provide much value to like the social networks by participating on them, whereas maybe they're targeting those people that they can extract value from.
It depends on what you mean by value, but I see that both Tom and Phil unmuted. So sorry, go ahead. You said what?
Oh no, well, yeah, if they've got something to say.
Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, I don't know if Phil's trying to talk and it's not Because I
No,
see his
no.
green.
I was just
Oh, okay.
oh yeah, I'm
Okay,
moving
yeah, because
green. I'm just clicking around.
yeah. Oh, okay.
No, I just felt kind of sad when you were saying that it's kind of a loop around, and I like it feels like money always wins, and basically they tried to create something else, and it's kind of not hasn't. Well, I've always felt like Farcaster really worked for me, but I'm not a big participator. But I really felt it was just a saner place to hang out and see what's happening in crypto than CT. So I'm kind of sad that it's well. I don't feel it's going away completely. I mean, they're refocusing. Is the I guess they're gonna is the intention to kill the Farcaster app and to have people use another client over the protocol, or is Zapper going to take over and people are going to chat there?
Yeah,
I'm
so I
not sure what
mean,
the future is.
it's hard to say what the future is going to be. But sorry, before we touch on that, go ahead, Tom.
Oh no, that's okay. I don't know if I had anything that insightful to add either. I kind of agree with the sense that the sentiment's changing, and it is kind of sad. Money wins, but I think at the end of the day, it's always just it comes back to attention, right? Like what can get and hold people's attention, and you might be able to get somebody's attention for a minute or something like that, but unless it's impactful to them long term or whatever, it's not going to hold their attention. Certainly, in amongst everything else that is important to them. So money is one of those factors that you feel like you can get some hooks with, probably is where there comes down to it. With otherwise, yeah, it's an attention game, I think.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that like from the beginning, like the team, like the Merkle Manufactory team, who's the team behind the Farcaster protocol and the Farcaster app, they were always saying we want to win crypto first. Which honestly, I mean that's not the strategy we have here, right? Like it's we're trying to appeal to people outside of the space that exists right now, for reasons. But in general, they were always like, no, we want to win crypto first, and it should be noted that it's very, very difficult to build a social media app, because essentially you are building something that people come to back every day to consume, um, multiple times a day, hopefully, right? For at least a couple minutes here or there. But you need some differentiator, like otherwise why wouldn't you just be on Twitter, or why wouldn't you just be on an existing social network? So you need like something that people say, like the rule of thumb is you need something 10 times better than what exists for people to actually use your product. Building a social product is very, very difficult, and so their strategy, their differentiator was like, oh, we're crypto first, right? You can program this network, you can use blockchain rails, your identity exists on blockchain, all these kinds of things, which it's a strategy. It's not the strategy I would have chosen, but it's a strategy that they chose, and honestly worked really well for that initial cohort of users. But they have never really wavered from that. They've always felt like their core differentiator was that. So leaning into trading and stuff is, I feel like a natural, if not disappointing, evolution of the way that they're going into it. I do agree with that whole sentiment that, it feels like money's winning out. I actually think it's a local maximum, right? Like I'm talking about these 20,000 users, and um, you can kind of fault my numbers and stuff like that. I'm sure you can pick it apart, but it's not a large, um, addressable market, the existing crypto space,
Yeah.
especially for people who are using it generally. But for people like Phil and Richard, who are just showing up every day and consuming the feed, that is still very valuable from a social, perspective. So, like having people, like in general, the rule of thumb is, 90% of people consume and 10% of people create, and even smaller, like 1% of people are creating like actual real top level content, while like 9% of people are kind of commenting and stuff on other people's stuff. So it's a difficult problem. But yeah.
Hello. Is my microphone too windy to speak?
No, I can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me? Okay. Yeah, X is a social first platform, but even Elon talks about becoming the everything app. right? Like what they use in China. It's not just social, it's also order your taxi, pay for your food, um, literal everything. And I know Elon wants to become that. There's no reason why Farcaster can't become that as well. The main differentiator being Farcaster is an open protocol and X is the opposite of that. So they're going to be able to pivot faster. They're always going to have that speed advantage, but Farcaster is going to have the decentralized advantage, and they're going to be able to, offer a more open ecosystem that's possibly more fair and ultimately more competitive for people to participate in. So I think it's still early doors. Love what they've done with it, and hopefully they'll just continue to pivot until they make it.
Yeah, it's like, I think like that whole, well, I mean, we may as well talk about everything app, because I guess like, Base wants to be an everything app, Farcaster wants to be an everything app, like all these groups want to be an everything app. And I guess like, despite the fact that there are everything apps that exist, I actually think the concept of an everything app is not that desirable, if I'm being completely honest. Like in general, if you're an everything app, you're a nothing app, especially if you set out to be an everything app, which I don't think is what um, WeChat. And I think there's WeChat and there's another that's an everything app essentially in Asia. Um, I don't think that that's what they set out to do. Like Line, I think, is also like is aiming at that everything app, right? Like they set out to be a chat app and everything was chat. And they really had this kind of strong directionality towards like chat is the way that people want to communicate. Gen Z is using texting and chatting. And so they built like the best possible chat. And then they found out almost accidentally that they could be an everything app. Since chat is how everyone wants to communicate, you can plug all of your existing things into chat, and that's great. So they really focused on chat, whereas I believe I think Farcaster doesn't do this as badly as Base, but I think like the Base app, they are trying way too hard to be the everything app from the get-go. And I just don't think that there's any kind of like strong directionality behind it. There's no strong thesis behind it. The only thing that is really behind it is that we want to be the everything app because that's going to create the most users, right? There's no, like I said, there's no thesis behind it that says like, it's not like, hey, we believe like chat is the next form of communication. Everyone wants to use chat. It's really just like, we want to be an everything app because that's going to make
Everything
us
against
the
the
most
wall.
user. Exactly.
See what sticks. Yeah,
That's going to make
I'm
us the
not
most money.
necessarily saying an everything app is what people need or want, nor what the Merkle team should be producing. But I guess it kind of points to this idea of composability and becoming interchangeable. What Farcaster have done is they built a protocol, and now they're working on a wallet. The protocol exists. It continues to exist, and you can fork it, and you can do whatever you want with it. Run your own instance. So in that respect, I think they've produced a greater good. Whether or not wallet is what people need or want, I don't know. I mean, I use Farcaster way less than I did. It was kind of obvious a year ago when they started incentivizing people to post, getting paid $5 to be active. It was they were trying to build that network effect that X has by onboarding people who aren't crypto users. So maybe the approach was wrong. Being a crypto first platform was not really the right message to be sending, especially after FTX. Like people were done with crypto. It was a joke. Crypto would be mentioned at football games, and the whole stadium would boo. Because FTX really, really ruined it for the whole market, and others. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they'll. Who knows what they'll come up with? They got bucket loads of money and some pretty smart people working for them. So they'll just have to find their own PMF, and then who knows what will happen. But the Farcaster ecosystem is interesting. is definitely different from X. And it is like people are still they're kind of migrating over to other apps, but they're keeping groups. So if anything, I think what we'll find here is more of a beginning of smaller communities that interact through either Farcaster protocol or other protocols that offer some form of community. So who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe we should integrate some sort of, or try and integrate with the different Farcaster protocols out the different Farcaster instances out there. Maybe we need to be partnering with Zapper and other
So
apps to
so
really find
you
our
have
PMF.
you have exactly, I think, narrowed in on exactly, I think, like my personal feeling on this as well, because the protocol exists now. I will say that like they changed the protocol to increase the scalability, and in doing so they reduced the decentralized aspect of it. So there is a new thing called snapchain. All of the people who are running snapchain hubs for the most part are Merkle and Nanar, who is like really Nanar is like a API provider to Merkle. But in general, I think that like it is a protocol, right? You can permissionlessly use this protocol. That is something that cannot be understated. And I think as well, like smaller communities is the way. Like, this is one of my mantras right now. The future is small. The way that all of these VC backed groups have to do it is that they have to attract the maximum amount of people possible. And so they're all trying to create this kind of public square like Twitter, right? In some way, shape, or form, they have to attract the maximum amount of people possible. But I actually think the value of the Farcaster protocol, at least from our perspective, when we're looking at communities, when we're looking at bottom up engagement, bottom up revenue generation, is the ability to use that protocol for small communities. Because, hey, it doesn't work for you to necessarily use Reddit or Facebook or any of these other kinds of things. You can't, do it in the way that you want to see for your community. But Farcaster allows you to create almost this kind of like bespoke social network for your own community that hooks into this larger network, but still is kind of its own insular network in its own way, right? And I think that to me is the most exciting thing about Farcaster, and it's exactly if you look at some of the P pages work in progress wireframes that we've done, it's exactly the way we want to use Farcaster, in that we want to have these kinds of like use Farcaster. So essentially, you don't have to run your own server. You're using Farcaster's servers to store your data. You're using Farcaster's servers to allow people to connect to a community and be part of it and see what's going on. You just need to run a front end website which allows access to that. All of a sudden, for a small community, there's a lot of value there because you can get all of this stuff for essentially for free, right? And I think that enables a community, even as small as one person. If we're talking about communities, yeah, it's more than one person. But if we're talking about something like a small business or something like that, all of a sudden having this ability to have a community around your project without necessarily needing to pay for some of these premium services is kind of interesting. And I don't know exactly how we're going to integrate it, but I do think that we are in a unique position to take advantage of it. That I don't think a lot of these VC-backed startups, which have to continue to chase these 20,000 users, which have to continue to try to make their product offering as broad as possible. I think that we can kind of potentially use this in a way that narrows the scope. And it's something that people wanted to do with channels, or at least that's what Merkle had kind of like had a plan with channels to do this, but it never really came to fruition. So, if the future is small, then we could potentially use Farcaster in that way. Hey, Artlu, feel free to come up on stage. Artlu is a Farcaster castaway, I guess, who says he doesn't use Farcaster, and yet he knows what's going on the on Farcaster probably better than I do. So feel free to come on up, Artlu, if you like. But yeah, any thoughts on that idea of using Farcaster for communities?
Yeah, I think it's a really great idea. And you also touched on something there. You mentioned premium services. it's great to be able to use these protocols in a way that's open and free. Although part of building is also being able to support yourself and fund yourself. This is why I like the idea of a marketplace. If you are a community and say, for example, Notion, you create a template, you can add that template to a template gallery and people can pay to access that. Having that option of a premium upgrade for a community is almost the same as having somebody build out your Discord for you or build a shop front. Maybe it's free. Maybe people charge a premium to do it in a custom way. But when we're talking about building communities and building sites, I think it would be nice to enable builders to actually do what they love and get paid for it. So maybe that's something we could consider as well. I feel like the builder community it's passionate and it's supportive and it's innovative. So if we offered that sort of that pathway for people to build on our platform, maybe that would jumpstart a little more activity as well.
Yeah, and I mean it's something we talked about a couple of weeks ago with that idea that like, hey, that escrow is kind of like that base building block. There are, I think, a couple of layers of abstraction that we need to make easier to use to actually make it possible. But in speaking with both Builder and Splits, I asked them about this missing piece, which is that kind of like easy to use storefront that you can kind of push out to the world and sell something. There's a lot of like complications in there, like how do you fulfill it? Like how do you make this happen? How do you do this on chain? How do we make it easy for anyone to kind of duplicate these things? And we've talked about those kinds of complications in the past. But ultimately, when I asked Burner, hey, are you creating a storefront? Because it seems like this lends itself to a storefront. They were like, no, we're really concentrating on this small piece. And the same with Splits. I said, hey, Splits, are you going to create a storefront? Because it's a missing piece. Like, how are people going to get money into their crypto account? They're like, no, there are other products that are doing that. In my opinion, the other products that are doing it aren't garbage. They're not very usable. If you need to learn how to use crypto to actually make it to actually use it, I actually don't think that it's that useful to 99% of people who might want to sell something out there. So we can build it, right? That's something that I do think is within our ability to create, and that is the goal of BPages in a way, is to create that. Let's say if we create a widget to allow you to sell something, even just one thing, eventually we can create that whole kind of storefront from the bottom up. But I do agree that that's like a key piece of this, because I really think that small businesses will benefit from blockchain technologies more than large businesses which are already entrenched in TradFi, more than just communities who aren't necessarily doing anything. But if you can, the best way to generate revenue is to sell something that people want, and that's really our goal, is to generate that revenue for communities and bottom up organizations.
Yeah, good point. Definitely. Maybe marketplace is something that we saw fail more than once during the NFT craze as well, right? I know many people who are developing their own marketplaces who left that code on the shelf.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's lots of reason those fail, and I think the biggest reason is that if as soon as you lock into that audience, that 20,000 users that are using crypto, you just don't have enough people to like there's not enough people for you to actually find a niche and succeed. It's like that is the niche, right? And so I just feel like we keep, every product has these like especially VC backed products, they have all of these like kind of um intent to create something that will appeal to the mass market, but those that kind of like economic forces or whatever you want to call them always drives them back to that short-term maximum, or that like kind of local maximum, which is that those 20,000 people who are actively using crypto. And if I'm being completely honest, like that audience is not interesting to me at all. Those 20,000 people who are driving 80% of the volume of crypto, these are the people who are trying to like make a buck off of exit liquidity, which is you. They're starting communities to create exit liquidity. They're driving price narratives just so that they can make money and run. And it's honestly kind of gross. And so these aren't the people I'm building for. I'm building for people who can benefit from this tech, who maybe don't even want to learn how to use the tech. Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, I don't know. Like maybe I'm mischaracterizing this 20,000 member group of people, but like I kind of see, like, there's all this action and perps and stuff and the trading, but I kind of see that like all as sort of like a zero sum game, and I've kind of decided that I don't want to play in like a zero sum game. I'd rather do something where like some value is created, but not being like a builder myself, it's like kind of harder for me to do that. But
you can do more than you think, right?
I think my ultimate goal, because I my career, I was pretty disillusioned with it because it was sort of like kind of a zero sum game environment that I wanted to escape. But unfortunately, I keep finding myself like identifying a lot of other cases where people are kind of doing the PvP zero sum game kind of thing, and like if I win, you lose.
Yep.
And I guess previously, like people would kind of justify that, like, oh well, it's you're doing it because it's price discovery, or you're creating liquidity. And yeah, sure, maybe there's a little bit of value in that, but I think that there's like so much more that can be done that's like not a zero sum game, by building. And
yeah,
it
sometimes
just
we
seems it just seems to be a struggle, on that narrative.
Yeah, I agree that perps are just another zero sum game that like are kind of masquerade. Like I feel like they're this group of people who are like in depth in crypto. They're always looking for the next meta, the next narrative that they can essentially use to extract, right? And so I think perps is the newest in that kind of thing. And if you're appealing to this crowd, you have to build perps into your product now. Like that's the only way you can even hope to stay relevant in this attention game. But I think like doing something completely different is more interesting to me than falling into another one of these zero sum games, right?
Yep.
Running up to the end of the hour here. Any other last thoughts on this? All right. Well, I just want to thank all of you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. And Phil too, although he had to leave for an appointment. I think in
Yo,
general.
Links.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Winverse.
Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah. Last, I'm not sure if this is a thought, but I just wanted to shill. I just launched like a mini app on Farcaster. So since I'm discussing Farcaster, I just thought to bring that up. So if you want to check it out, I'll put it in the chat and anyone can try it out.
Yeah, put it in the open chat. I think you'll get more eyeballs on it there. And feel free to add the team.
Nice. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, I think like it's in this kind of space where I think that whole PvP zero sum is normal and even like applauded, I would say. It's nice to have the space where we can talk about these things from our perspective. It's really to me this technology is transformative, right? And I think that I want to use it to transform. I don't want to use it to have a different gatekeeper, like, you know, we have TradFi and then we have this new TradFi, which is again the same thing with a different flavor. That's not interesting to me. That's not a good outcome for me. So I really appreciate being able to have this space and being able to have this time to discuss these kinds of things from this perspective with you guys. So thank you all for being here. I really appreciate you all. Next week is the retrospective, so feel free to have some pluses and deltas, even if you just think about it for 5 minutes. That would be contribution in and of itself. So thank you very much. I appreciate you all.
Thank you, Lynx. Thanks,
Thank-
everybody.
Guys,
Yep,
see you next
thank
week. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Keep casting it.